Great call to join us in the trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics, as always. And as always, we are coming to you from the studio provided by First Star Logistics, which is second to none, as our special guest is second to none. Charles Davis, football color analyst for CBS Sports. Had the pleasure of working with Charles Davis back in the college football days. We did games together for Fox, Sportsnet, and Fox, and it was a lot of fun. He is a great guy, and he knows his football. He played in the secondary. He was a safety. He had a real nose for the football, had a high football IQ, and he knows what he's looking at. So we talked to Charles Davis about everything there is to talk about with respect to this football game against the Philadephia Eagles, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And there was more ugly than good, more bad and ugly, I guess, for the Bengals, particularly in the second half. We talk about that. We talk about the upcoming opponent, the Las Vegas Raiders. He recently had them against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he's got some interesting information in that regard as well. And then we also go into a projection. What do you think? Can the Bengals still make a playoff run? He's got some interesting things to say about that. You're going to enjoy Charles Davis. Much appreciated that you would take your time to join us in the trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics. As always, we are emanating from our outstanding studios provided. We really are grateful for what First Star Logistics does for us. And we are grateful for this gentleman carving time for us because Charles Davis is a busy man. Charles Davis is football. He was a great player. He's an unbelievable communicator. But on top of all that, this guy's as good a human being as you're ever going to want to meet in your whole life. And he did the Bengals game against the Philadephia Eagles with Ian Eagle. They were in the broadcast booth together. Charles, welcome. Thanks for your time. I know listeners and viewers really appreciate you, man.
Oh, that's awfully kind of you, Dave. Thank you very much. And I really appreciate all the nice things you said, but you're the gold standard, and thanks for having me on. So this works out really well, and it's great to have this conversation with you.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed the times that we spent together doing some college football games in the past. That was a lot of fun. A lot of fun for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope everything's okay. I think the witch behind me will continue to travel around. My version of Margaret Hamilton is making her way around. Although, as Tom Hanks did say in A League of Their Own to the woman chaperone, I loved you in The Wizard of Oz. Just so everyone know, that was not Margaret Hamilton, the original Wicked Witch of the West. But moving right.
Just remember, there's no place like home, right? I mean,
no place like home. I got to find my Auntie M. Okay?
There you go. It's that time of year, man. Halloween coming. You got all your candy already? You're all loaded in that regard?
I think I'm going to have to make another run, Dave, because I'm not sure that the first edition is going to make it to the kids.
I hear you. I hear everything about that. So as you've had time to reflect, and I mean, I remember what it's like traveling, getting back after games and everything you go through to get to and from. So that's why I really appreciate you carving the time you have. You've had time to digest the football game. What are your thoughts as you think back on what took place? Bengals-Eagles, what are you thinking?
You know, Dave, I go back and you know, you're very close to the team. You know them better than anyone out there. You know, we come swooping in and try and learn as much as we can and try and stay on target. But we've been fortunate enough as a crew to have a good number of Cincinnati games since my time, you know, starting at CBS over 5 years. And Zach Taylor and his staff, who I think are just absolutely wonderful. And, you know, we've seen a lot of really good ball. Okay. Yeah. We've seen a lot of good stuff with Cincinnati. The feeling I had going into this one, I said it for myself. Philadelphia and Cincinnati, as we well know, both played Cleveland and the New York Giants in the previous 2 weeks. Both had their share of struggles in some cases. Other cases in Philadelphia, they just blew out the Giants. But both won. But neither was going to get a lot of credit for that. Like, you were supposed to win those games.
Right.
not the year for Cleveland and the Giants, although Cleveland, as we saw, bumped off Baltimore. So any given Sunday's real in the NFL. But all that being said, they weren't going to get credit for it. But playing each other, preseason almost locks to be playoff teams in the minds of the public. I said, my phrase was, one of them gets to reestablish their bona fides this weekend. Okay. Obviously, when it's all said and done, Philadelphia got to do that. But it felt to me like Cincinnati was going into this one where, okay, we've had our bumps, we've had our challenges, we haven't played great here. But guess what? It's midseason. It's time for us to be the Cincinnati Bengals that we've been in the past. I felt that from Zach Taylor as the head coach. Felt a little bit of that from the team. Urgency is the wrong word, but it's kind of like, okay, enough of the other stuff. It's time for us to be that good team we know we are. And here's a perfect weekend to do it. Dave, could the first drive have been better? Like, could have been scripted better? Could have played out better? If you took that first drive to a movie producer, they would send it back and say, we can't do that. No one's going to do that.
No one's going to believe it.
Even Disney would go, yeah, come on. You're stretching it on me here. 10 plus minutes, 17 plays, touchdown. And you knew Cincinnati, if they had won the toss, they weren't going to defer. They were taking the toss. They were taking the ball. They wanted to jump out and get out on top because they wanted the feel of control.
Right.
Well, Philadelphia won the toss, deferred, so Cincinnati got the ball anyway, and it all worked. It all worked. So everything you wanted, everything you were looking for, and I'm not saying it collapsed from there because it didn't, but they had it working. But I felt like, Dave, somewhere around midway through the second quarter, Philadelphia looked up and was like, hey, hold on a second. Cincinnati's controlled the game, controlled the ball, done everything they've wanted, and it's only 10-3. We're only down 10-3.
Yep.
And that was the problem. It wasn't a tsunami, but Cincinnati threw a lot at them. Okay, now I'm going to get into boxing. They threw a lot of punches, and Philly defended, and then got their drive right before the half. Faked going for two, essentially. Got the go, okay, kick it, 10-10. And Philadelphia's getting the ball. And scored. And now it had flipped. And it almost felt like, I just wondered, Dave, at that point, did Cincinnati feel like they had thrown their best stuff and now they've got to find a way? Because I'm getting to 1 minute and 8 seconds left in the third quarter. I believe it was 24-17 Philadelphia. 4th and 2. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, 4th and 1.
4th and 1.
3rd and 1 didn't get it. 4th and 1.
Long one. And they went for it. And I said before, punt it. Make them go the long way. There's a lot of time left in this ball game. They don't get it. Try and swing it out to Jamar. They don't get it. Philadelphia only gets a field goal. So there's still life there.
Yeah.
But I felt going into when Zach Taylor decided to go for it, I thought, okay, does he feel like his defense either can't stop Philadelphia at this point, or he had something like, I got to take this good shot here because the field position is decent, even though it's on our side. I just didn't think it was the right place, the right time. But he has better pulse on his team. He knows better, right? So I never am one of those that goes, well, that's just the worst call I've ever seen. No, my opinion is you punt the ball. But in his mind, he must have felt something else with his team. And that's why he went for it there. It didn't work. And, of course, you know what happens when you're a head coach and it doesn't work. You have to wear it and you have to own it. So I'm still not sure what made him do that. I didn't see the post stuff, Dave. But I was of the opinion he should have punted the ball there. Yeah,
he basically, said he was sick to his stomach when it didn't work out. I just, to me, the one thing that I noticed a big difference, anytime, even if it's 3rd and 8, Philadelphia says, let's get it to 4th and 2 and we're going to tush push it, man.
Yeah.
And with the Bengals, 3rd and 1, what are we going to do? 4th and 1, timeout, what are we going to, it's like, we can't decide on a formation, can't decide on a play. They're like, at the line of scrimmage, we know what we're doing. Yeah. We got a quarterback that can squat 600 pounds. And we got a running back that can squat 500. We're gonna push it up through there. And I mean, they know exactly who they are and what they want to do in those situations. And the Bengals were searching a little bit, and I mean, they get stopped on 3rd and 1, so 4th and 1, thinking, get it out in the perimeter to your hardest guy to tackle in space. Jamar Chase, with his strength in his lower body, hard to DeJean makes a play, man. You got to give him credit. Hell of a play.
It was a heck of a play, Dave, because to your point, Jamar Chase going to win that battle almost every single time. Yeah. There's very few scenarios that you envision him in space not winning one-on-one.
Yep.
And I understood that part. Yep. I really did. DeJean made a terrific play. By the way, he went in the 2nd round. He was a 1st rounder all day long. He went in the 2nd round because he got hurt late in the season, couldn't work out. You know how that goes sometimes. But this kid is a heck of a player, and he made a play that's – you're going to see him in Pro Bowls. I'm just telling you. He's that type of a player. But I was just wondering what was going through Zach's mind at that point about, did he feel like maybe Philadelphia had so much momentum offensively that he had to try and keep up and he couldn't give another possession up? Or he felt like, as you said, this is the right call. No way they can stop him. I'll get this 1st down, start over, and keep our march going. There was so much that went into it, but he knows his team better than we do. And I was wondering where his finger was on the pulse of the team at that time and what they were feeling. The other part, you said it, Dave, and let me just finish with this.
Yeah.
Philadelphia put so much pressure on you mentally as a defense because, as you pointed out, you stop them on 3rd down. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're getting off the field like almost everyone else. Like, you make a big play on 3rd down. All right, cool. Yeah. It's 3rd and 3. All right, we stopped them. That's great. It's 4th and 2.
Right.
Punt the ball. Not necessarily.
Right.
So you have to always think in your mind. That changes your whole mindset. It changes how you prepare for a game. Guys, don't make a play, wave to the crowd, and head to the bench. We may have to play one more play on defense. And that's where Philadelphia can wear you down when they are on their game. And once they got on their feet yesterday, they were on their game. They were very good yesterday.
They were. I'm wondering, the Bengals go on the 17-play drive like you talked about. They have 6 first downs. And the longest play in that drive was 12 yards.
Yeah.
I mean, there were no explosives,
Yep.
And it's like, all right, Philadelphia, it's like, okay, yeah, man, they scored but we made them work, man. At some point, they're going to make mistakes. We're alive here. They answer with a 10-play drive.
Yep.
And I mean, in the 1st quarter, they don't even get credit for a possession. That 10-play drive spilled into the 2nd quarter. They don't get credit for a possession. So I'm thinking Zach was thinking, this is going to be a game of few possessions, man. Maybe we got to capitalize on everything. They put both teams going in 10, 12, 17-play drives,
Yeah, can't give up a possession because once you do, the ball goes away for a long time.
Right.
There was a number of times we showed Joe Burrow on the bench and realized that I think we've shown him 3 times on this drive. I remember looking one time and go, he's still over there. All right, this drive is still going.
Yeah.
And that makes it very difficult. You're exactly right, Dave. They just went ahead and answered. And we came out of the 1st quarter, 1 official drive in the 1st quarter because Philadelphia's didn't finish.
Right.
And it spilled into the 2nd quarter. And that thing just flew by.
Crazy.
And by the way, if you're a TV person, like if you work in our truck and all that, and you're in charge of timeouts and all that, you are losing your mind because now you got to make up 6, 7 breaks that you didn't have before, and it changes your whole focus. Now, that's neither here nor there for anyone, but typically, Dave, if that was a high school game, right, non-televised or whatever, that game would have been over like a well-pitched 2-0 shutout baseball game. We would have flown out of there, right?
No doubt.
But TV is such an impact. You have to have the breaks, you got to sell the commercial, all that. We still finished the whole football game about the same time we normally would have.
So here to me is that you talk about the touchdown right before the half, 12 plays, 73 yards, 6 first downs for Philadelphia, score a touchdown. Then in the second half, 5 possessions, score 5 times. They scored on 6 straight possessions, touchdown, 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 field goal, touchdown, field goal. Bengals in the second half, you score a touchdown to answer on a 13-play, 70-yard drive. Stopped on downs, interception, fumble. So while Philadelphia is scoring on 5 straight drives in the second half, the Bengals on 8 snaps generate 26 yards and have 3 disasters. I mean, 3 giveaways. Philadelphia doesn't give the ball away at all. The Bengals are -2 in the turnover, but in my mind, it's -3.
Yeah.
And you just can't beat good football teams with that kind of a scenario, right, Charles?
No, it really changes everything. And let's go back to the first drive, and you mentioned it and spotlighted it. 12 yards was the biggest play. Now, when you score, no one cares.
Right.
But it's an indicator of what your day is going to be like. It's going to be a grind.
Yep.
Okay? So now I'm going to get into basketball. Cincinnati used to have an NBA team, the old Royals, right?
Yep. Big O.
You're essentially playing half-court basketball now, where every possession, the coach calls a set, you go and you do your thing, you pass it 4 or 5 times, someone's got to get a shot, and your efficiency has to be high.
Nice. Good analogy, man.
Because you're not getting easy run-outs. You're not getting a steal and a layup. You're not pressing and they turn it over. You're not getting any of that. Everything has to be right. You can't miss. And that's the pressure Philadelphia put on them with 5 straight possessions scoring points. Now, there weren't a ton of super explosive plays by Philadelphia. The biggest one, of course, was the Hurts touchdown pass to Devontae Smith.
Right.
But they were just very efficient running the football, right? Then when they threw it, Hurts had a lot of time because I think Kellen Moore, their offensive coordinator, I thought he called a masterful game. Early in the game, he got Hurts under center, which they don't do a heck of a lot of.
Mm-hmm.
Then they handed off to Barkley for more of those I formation runs that he loves, although he's run well out of gun.
Right.
And when they decided to throw the ball, whether it was out of gun or even under center, they max protected a lot.
Yep.
The second tight end stayed in. The touchdown pass, I mean, as an old lineman, Dave, Jack Stoll, I know you saw it. He danced with Sam Hubbard out there in the open field after they double-teamed the big guys down inside.
Yeah.
He danced out there one-on-one like he was an offensive tackle, a good offensive tackle. And he had nothing but time, and he just stepped in and launched and threw a beautiful ball. Hurts doesn't get the credit he deserves when he's on his game for being accurate and creating plays. Because remember that first touchdown they scored, it was 3rd and 13 going in. And I think he hit A.J. Brown. And then they ended up scoring the touchdown, which was the touchdown of the equalizer. So that was whoa, okay, hold on. If he's going to hit these throws today.
Right.
Oh boy, it's not just the legs. It's not just the brotherly shove play. It's not all that stuff. Now he is throwing the football well. And I thought Kellen Moore did a nice job of making sure the environment around him was good for him to throw it because he wasn't really getting out of the pocket to throw it.
Right.
He was standing in the pocket, able to find people because the pass rush pressure was tamped down. And they did a nice job. Not nice. They did an exceptional job that Trey Hendrickson didn't wreck him. And he was going against a backup offensive tackle.
Right. They were play actioning, still pulling linemen, doing the counter stuff and loading it up, like you said.
Chip and Hendrickson on their way out to try and slow him down a little bit. They did a really nice job to make sure their quarterback didn't get eaten by number 91.
If you run the ball like they did, play action pass is super effective. And now that's the offensive line's best friend. And it's the nightmare for the linebackers and safeties. They got to make sure, it just kind of that extra little hesitation beat is huge. Let me ask you this. The Philadelphia Eagles still have not scored a first quarter point. They've been outscored 30-0. And even being +2, they're -4 on the season, haven't scored a point in the first quarter. They're 5-2. The Bengals go 10 for 13 on third down. They don't punt the ball and they lose by 20. Yeah. What the hell? I mean, it's like totally contrary. I mean, you think you understand football and you're, oh, yeah, I know what I'm going to expect to see here. Man, you never know. It's crazy.
It is one of my favorite comic strips as a kid was Peanuts, Charles Schultz. And one time, the kids always had that baseball going, right?
Right.
And I think Lucy was quoting stats to Charlie Brown at one point about just how bad they were. You know, we're only hitting .082 and we're only fielding us this and we're only doing it. And the end of the strip, Charlie Brown said, Lucy, tell your statistics to shut up. That's what it feels like when you 10 of 13 on third down. 10 of 13 on third down, you're supposed to have a dominant day. But the stat that killed him was the one you cited before. The giveaways, and as you pointed out, the fourth down stop doesn't go down as a turnover.
Right.
Feels like a turnover.
Absolutely. I mean, to me, it's like fumbling the football and they recover. It's like there's not really any field position change or anything else, but man, to me, it's totally equivalent. And the explosives that you're talking about, it's funny. I looked through the stat sheet and the play-by-play, explosives, chunks, whatever you want to call it. The Bengals
when you're saying explosive, Dave, we're going to talk runs of what, 12, 16?
I broke it down to runs of 10 yards or more, passes of 15 or more, the numbers I used.
Each group does it just a little bit differently, but 10 and 15, yes.
Okay, so Cincinnati runs 10 or more, 0. The longest run was the 8-yard scramble by Joe Burrow.
The longest run drive alive and led to a score.
Yeah. The longest run by a back from scrimmage was 5 yards. In the first half, it was 3 yards. I mean, they couldn't run the ball the length of whatever. Passes of 15 yards or more. The Bengals had 3 of them, 24 yards, 28 yards, 41 yards. Now we go to Philadelphia. Runs of 10 yards or more, 5 of them. Two for 11 yards, 11 and 11, a 12-yarder, 17-yarder, 19-yarder. Passes of 15 yards or more, 7 of them. 15, 17, 19, 23, 28, 29, and a 45-yard touchdown. So chunks, explosive, what do you want to call it? They chunked them, man. They exploded on them, and the Bengals couldn't answer. They didn't have enough big plays. And like we talked about, that 17-play drive is hard to do. They went 5 for 5 on third down, 5 for 5. They converted a 3rd and 22, and they can't get a 3rd and 1. When they needed a 3rd and 1, it's like, 10 for 13 and a 3rd and 1 at the critical time. Squadouche.
Evolution of the game, those explosives. You have a lot of coaches that were talking about it X number of years ago, how big these were. And, for us old school guys, we're like, and guess what? They were right. They saw the future. Those types of plays are the ones that get it. And this is the type of day it was as well, because I'm not sure what you thought of it, Dave, but you remember the interception that Burrow threw when he's trying to hit Chase down the sideline. And Isaiah Rodgers tips the ball, and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson intercepts it.
Yep, great play.
Phenomenal play, because sometimes, as you know from playing, sometimes the other guy actually wins. It's not always that I lost. And my point that on that play is absolutely the right decision, because their Pro Bowl corner, Darius Slay, is out. He had to go out of the game. He got hurt. I think he had a groin injury.
Yep.
From the time I started playing ball and I was reading football, my dad was a high school football coach and basketball coach and all that, and he had all the coaching books and all. There was a book written by a high school coach in Kansas named Otto Unruh, U-N-R-U-H. And one of the chapters he had was one of his axioms or maxims or whatever you want to call it. When a substitute comes into the game, crack him immediately.
Test him, baby.
Because if he was that good, he would have been out there in the first place. Like he would always say, oh, yeah, you ever met a team that said, well, our backups are as good as their starters? He said, check the offense, check the lineup every week. The same guys are starting. So that's a lie. Okay? He said if the backups were as good, some of those guys would start sometimes. That's just not true. So his maximum backup comes again, you test him right away. Dave, you lived it, right? That's part of what we do in ball, right? So if you're Joe Burrow and you see that Isaiah Rodgers has Jamar Chase, and Jamar Chase dices up the best corners in the game, and you're going to run me a backup who did not play last year because he was suspended for gambling and has played sparingly this year only when Slay was hurt, you're darn right I'm going to test it with my best player.
Yeah.
And guess what? On that play, that kid actually won. It wasn't a bad play. It wasn't a bad decision. That kid made it a heck of a play.
Yeah, you're right. Joe, after the game, said, I'd do it again, but I underthrew it a little bit.
He did underthrow it a little.
Right.
He said made a heck of a play.
He did. I mean, sometimes you do underthrow it a little bit, and what happens? That doesn't happen all the time. When it was underthrown a little bit, he capitalized and made an unbelievable play, and
he underthrows it a little bit. That kid's not supposed to still be in the picture with Jamar Chase. There's supposed to be separation. And if you do underthrow it, Jamar can make a play and go get it.
Right.
This kid is staying in phase, running with him, gets the arm up, and then Gardner Johnson hustling over, ball pops right to him.
Yep.
that's what happens when you hustle and you make plays. But sometimes the other guy makes a good play. Like, and Joe, I'm with Joe Burrow 1,000%. I'd do it again tomorrow. Would I wrote a little better? Sure. But that matchup, absolutely. So a high school coach in Kansas is writing that around 1960 something. Okay. It's as true then as it is now, 2024. Backup guy comes in, you better check him out and see if he's ready to go. And in this case, unfortunately, Isaiah Rodgers was ready to go.
He was. So let's talk about the T. Higgins not being able to go factor in the football game. The 1-2 punch of Smith and Brown for the Philadelphia Eagles, they combined, they had 13 targets. They had 11 catches on those 13 targets, 169 yards and a touchdown, the 45-yard touchdown, the big damage there. Jamar, 11 targets, 9 catches for 54 yards, 6 yards per. He has a touchdown reception. But I don't know, when T's not there, man, it's peanut butter and jelly. When jelly's not there, that peanut butter is a little dry, I mean, it's just not the same, right?
Yeah, you're right about that. And Dave, we had a stat going into the game, and I know you had the same one. Jamar Chase's numbers with T. Higgins, Jamar Chase's numbers without T. Higgins.
Yep.
And it's pretty dramatic.
Yep.
And that just tells you what T. Higgins can do to help Jamar Chase, to absorb all these things. Well, you also know how good Jamar Chase is, that at some point he's going to find one of those breakout games without T. Could that have been the one yesterday? And by the way, Mike Gesicki, who I fully expected to step up before the ball game, did.
Yep.
Gave him some plays early, and he wasn't running tight end routes. He was beating defensive backs, running essentially like a wide receiver, but it just wasn't enough. And the biggest one you talked about is Jamar Chase never got the super chunk plays. He didn't get that. Philadelphia came into the game with Devontae Smith. Do you know that in the last 2 ball games, Devontae Smith only had 4 catches?
Yeah.
The previous game, he had 1 catch for -2 yards.
Yeah.
They wanted to make sure he got going, and they did.
Yep.
And coming into the game, A.J. Brown had played 3 games because he'd been out with a pulled hamstring. In each game, he had 1 reception of at least 40 yards. He didn't have that yesterday, but Devontae Smith had the 50-plus yarder for the touchdown. So when they got both of them going, oh, boy, that's now you got problem. They're going, Barkley running, hurts his ability to do what he does. They did all that without Dallas Goedert, their top end. Now,
right.
Grant Calcaterra came in and played very well for him. He's played well for them throughout. Turned out, Dave, I didn't realize this. He's a Cincinnati kid. He's an original Cincinnati kid. I met his old man.
Did you?
Yeah, the old man introduced himself. He was so nice, right?
Huh.
And I met Mom. I met Grant's wife.
Nice.
And the old man said he had season tickets for the Bengals for 40-plus years. Since the first time he was entering that stadium not wearing orange and black.
That's great.
How about that?
How about it? Yeah, you're right about Brown. Brown was averaging over 20 yards a catch coming in, Charles. He ended up 16-8 on that one, right, right there anyway. But Gesicki, yeah, I said to him after the game, you had 7 catches. His first 5 catches were all on 3rd down. Every catch he made converted to a first down.
Big catches.
Yeah, and I said, okay, T, 6'4", 220-plus pound, you're 6'6", 245. Were you like the T? I mean, you were the guy that they were going to a little bit. He goes, well, he's humble. He didn't want to. Yeah. He said a lot of guys contributed, but to me, it looked like you saying he was running T routes a little bit instead of the normal routes for tight end.
And don't forget on those key downs. Remember you mentioned how many catches on 3rd down, Dave?
I think 5.
Okay, I bet you if you turn on the film, how many people are running with Jamar Chase on 3rd down?
Yeah, right.
Right. Vic Fangio is the defense coordinator of Philadelphia. That quarter shell look to start, and then they get to all the coverage they want to get to. Joe's looking at the same look on every snap. So he's got a pre-snap. And I thought Cincinnati, and you need to help me with this because you watch it more than I do. I thought, especially early in the game, that Zach Taylor and Dan Pitcher, the offense coordinator, utilized motion and movement pre-snap more than normal. Because they were trying to get a read and a tell, because what Vic does is he shows you that shell. And those guys, when they're trained really well by him, they hold their water really well. They don't move.
Right.
And then post-snap, everybody gets to where they need to get to. So Joe has 2 reads on every play. Pre-snap, post-snap. And he's trying to get anything to tell him what the post-snap is going to look like. So we had the short motion sometimes with Gesicki. I thought they did a really nice job, Dan Pitcher and Zach, in hiding Jamar early in the game, meaning he'd put him with Gesicki and then get him behind him so you can't press him. And now Gesicki runs his route and you're running off of it. You're kind of drafting and then getting out there. So now you're getting a free release to everywhere you go. I thought they did a number of really good things to try and get that done. But as you pointed out, as the game went on and Philadelphia scoring, when you don't answer each time, that's where the game kind of gets away from you. And look, you mentioned all the chunk plays by Philadelphia, did all that. It still felt like death by 1,000 paper cuts in a lot of ways. They still, it was, you felt like here's another chance for Cincinnati. You can get off the field. Here's another chance. Here's another chance. And they just weren't able to take care of it and take advantage of it. And that's as full strength as they've been in recent weeks.
So here's, in my mind, philosophically, the crux of the football game. Philadelphia runs it 39 times for 161 yards. They throw it 20 times. Hurts completes 16, 80%, 236 yards, touchdown pass. He rushes for 3 touchdowns, by the way. Quarterback rating of 132.5. The Bengals throw it 37 times. They run it 20. And so you're saying, okay, well, it got out of control a little bit in the second half. They got a multiple score lead and they were pounding it. Here's the halftime numbers. Bengals 9 rushes for 17 yards, 24 passes to 9 rushes on the other side of it. Even they're playing from behind. They have to score late to tie the game at the half. Running it 17 times, throwing it 11. One team believes one way to approach it. The other team believes another way to approach it.
They do. They absolutely do. And Dave, you've watched Cincinnati for all these years under Zach's tutelage, and when they've gotten to where, we talk about Cincinnati as one of the top teams in the league, and we've seen it over these years. Even with Joe Mixon, they're going to throw it first, run it second.
Yep.
But with Mixon, you did have the ability to try and close things out. You felt like you had the hammer. And we did a game. You may remember this. We were in Las Vegas. I can't remember if it was COVID year or the year after. And you remember how Zach stayed with it down the stretch and Joe Mixon ran him into submission?
Yep. Close that bad boy out.
I don't know that they have that right now.
That's a good point.
That's different for them. And by the way, for everyone who's saying, okay, well, you just got to start running it more. Dave Lapham helped me on this one. If you have not been doing this since OTAs and minicamp with full emphasis, week 9, you don't just all of a sudden start running the ball with heavy emphasis.
Right. Although against Cleveland, they ran it 25, threw it 25. They didn't have the ball very much. Cleveland possessed the thing, but I think they were trying to do that. The first month of the season, they ran it halfway decently, and they were using multiple tight end sets. They were going 12 and 13 and all that.
Didn't see much of that diamond set in this ball game.
No. In this game, the last 2 games, really, they haven't been able to run the ball all that well. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see the changes or adjustments or whatever is made. Have you had the Las Vegas Raiders at all this year, Charles?
We actually had them the week before we saw you, Dave. We were out there and we saw them against, God, who did they host in that one? That's terrible. It tells you where my head is. Anyway, we saw them.
They hosted the Rams.
Okay, that wasn't our game. Pittsburgh. Thank you. Yeah, Pittsburgh went out. That was Justin Fields' last start in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
And it was it's supposed to have been Gardner Minshew's last start was the week before. We got Aiden O'Connell.
Right.
And then O'Connell gets hurt, so Minshew's back in. So you're going to get Minshew at quarterback.
Right.
For them. I'm just going to tell you right now, Brock Bowers.
Yeah.
That kid's the truth. Okay.
How many places are they playing him?
Everywhere, except for in the backfield so far. But remember his college tape, they did that with him.
Yep.
And they handed it to him, and he looked like the second coming of Red Grange. So this kid he's the real deal. He's one of those tight ends that when teams don't have a dominant out wide receiver, that you're going to run it through him. Remember when Carolina went to the Super Bowl with Cam, his number one target, Greg Olsen was really wide receiver 1.
Yep.
Okay. But when Steve McNair had his best years in Tennessee, Frank Wycheck really was his guy, even though he had some guys out wide. But Frank Wycheck was where it all kind of revolved, right?
No doubt.
That's what Mahomes has with Kelsey. You know?
Yep.
That's where they are right now, in my opinion, my humble opinion. Now they'll get Jacoby Myers back. I believe he played this week. He didn't play in our game.
Yeah, he played this week. You're right. But
Brock Bowers. The running backs, Madison is displaced Zamir's White. He has become the lead back, but they don't run it super effectively either. Defensively, okay, when you're looking over there, they're going to do a lot of stuff over there and all, but they're struggling themselves to make those kind of plays that are going to change games. And that's where Pittsburgh got them, because Pittsburgh essentially beat them up in the run game with Najee Harris.
Right. And they, I mean, Max Crosby still, 6.5 sacks at this stage. He's still the guy. I mean, he's
still the guy, but you can neutralize him if you stay out of long distance passing, downs. So you can help tamp that down somewhat. But Crosby doesn't ever come off the field. He makes plays in the run game too. He's a complete defensive end. He's not pin my ears back. If I run past a run play to go get an ad, doesn't matter. That's what I do. No, he sets edges. He plays the run the correct way. What's the compliment, players of your vintage would give, Dave? He plays the game the right way.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yep, you're right.
That's your nod of respect to a guy like that.
Bowers, you're right. 52 catches already, 535 yards. Now that's
he's the real deal.
Yeah,
he is the real deal. Like, wow. That's all I'm telling you is wherever you want to put him and all that. And Dave, he's a nice young man, but he no more wants to sit down with you and me and do a show like this than a man on the moon.
Really?
I met him during the combine.
Yeah.
And he's looking at me like the look on his face was like, help me. He might as well had a newspaper up with the date on it, like he's in witness protection. He was nice. He did everything he's supposed to. I actually leaned over to him right before we began. And I said, Brock, I know we don't really know each other. I said, but you really would like to not do this, huh? He goes, he sounded like Cush and Jerry Maguire. I just want to play ball, man. I just want to play ball.
All right. From what you've seen, and we'll get out of here on this, and I appreciate you spending all the time with us that you have. You are the best, my man. What you've seen on tape of the Cincinnati Bengals prior to this football game and what you saw during the course of this football game, do they have enough to go 7-2, 6-3 worst case scenario? You got to think at least 9. You probably have to have 10 wins to think about a playoff possibility. But the first thing and only thing you have to think about is the Raiders.
Right.
It's one game at a time. But, the big picture, do you think this team can make a run like that?
I think so, because they have it in their DNA. They have it in their hip pocket. The hard part, Dave, is I really think they thought Sunday was the day it was going to be activated.
Yeah.
I really do. I really feel like I'm not saying they pushed all their chips into the middle. And that's not what I'm saying. But they were determined to play that complete game, to play the game that the Bengals are supposed to play, to win a game at home. I'm still in shock. We're talking about an 0-4 at home Bengals team.
I'd be broke, man. I would have bet everything. My pockets would be inside out. I wouldn't have a penny. I'm telling you, man.
And it's a great home environment. It's a terrific crowd that's with you, that knows football, that understands it, and is supportive. Okay? Things don't go right. The crowd's not really getting on the team. They might leave before the game's over, but they're not really like, you guys at other places, you're catching that. No, they're with you. They want to be with their team, and this team is trying desperately to reward them. Do they have it in them? When you have Burrow, you have Chase, you got to get T back, of course. Keep Gesicki as part of the offense. See if there's any way to run it a little bit better. And, of course, now you're worried about the health of Orlando Brown at left tackle.
Yep.
Because he's been dinged the last 2 weeks. Okay. Yep. Mims keeps come along at right tackle. The interior 3, they're going to be fine. What are those things? The flip side is I am never going to say I'm going to count out Zach Taylor. I'm never going to count out Lou Anarumo. I'm not going to count out this organization because they've learned how to do all this. My only caveat, Dave, is how many years in a row can you dig yourself out of a hole? And last year, they were out of the hole, and then Joe Burrow got hurt in Baltimore.
Right.
And then they went back in the hole. Jake Browning did a nice job, but they went 4-3 under him. With Burrow, you like to think the record would have been a little bit better, right? So when you keep starting 0-2, 1-3, it's a lot to do every year. Yes, have they picked up and handled it for the most part? Because the previous 2 years, well, you went to a Super Bowl and you went to an AFC Championship game. Last year, they were going to make the playoffs. They were going to be in again. They were going to take themselves out and be in again, but Burrow gets hurt. I just keep thinking you're pressing your margin for error. And they pressed the heck out of it this year at 0-3.
No doubt.
So it's about gone. It's a lot to keep digging out from under, but are they capable? Absolutely, they're capable. I mean, I'm not saying that just because I'm on the show. If you ask anyone around the league,
right,
the number one, they're incredulous. What? The Bengals are what? But we've seen what they're doing. Now what the next step is, and it's not this week, Dave, because it's the Raiders. You've got to beat someone that gets people's attention.
No doubt.
Because coming into this week, I mean, I had to look 4 times, but the combined record of the teams you had beaten prior to Sunday was 4-17. Now, is Cincinnati capable of beating the better teams? Kansas City, totally on the ropes. That's one that they should have won.
Baltimore
should have won. You see, so it's not like they're not capable of beating those people, but I think they need it for themselves. They need it for their fan base.
How about this one? The Bengals have lost 5 football games, 4 of them by a combined 15 points. They lost to New England by 6, by 1 to Kansas City, by 5 to Washington, by 3 to Baltimore, and they lose this game by 20. Their other losses by a combined 15. They picked this one to fall apart in the second half at home.
The only loss that's inexplicable is New England.
When it happened, I'm like, it's going to bug me all year, man. It's going to be a thorn in the side all year long.
You miss the playoffs for 1 game. Oh, my goodness.
I'm telling you, and really, and you know as well as anybody or better, everybody around the league is looking for their quarterback. You got your quarterback. You can't waste years with your quarterback. You got the guy. I mean, the Raiders would love to have him. I mean, anybody would love to have this. And Bengals got a guy. You got to capitalize, man. Got to capitalize.
Yes. And it wouldn't surprise me at all, Dave, if they did get on that run. We've seen it before. Yeah. And you got the right quarterback, the right mentality, the right leadership, enough people around there who have done it. They just need to teach the youngsters, hey, guys, just follow us. We've done this before. Now we need you to come along with us and be there because we've dug out of these holes. We've made it tough on ourselves, but the reward has been good at the end. And we have all the right elements. You got the quarterback. You got the receivers, okay? The running game will keep coming along, I think, right?
Right.
You got a defensive wizard over there, and you've got veteran players who know how to play and know how to play defense. And he's not as concerned on the back end as he was last year. Now they just have to put it together, play the complete game, and go. And if anyone can do it, it's this organization. I would never, ever count them out. I have a feeling our crew will see them again. And when we do next time, Dave, we'll be talking about, well, the Bengals on a 4-game run right now. You know, it just feels that way to me. Although I know Sunday put a real dent in things for people, but I will never count this group out. I am so strong on Zach Taylor and his group, so strong on Lou Anarumo and his group. Like, Lou should have been a head coach multiple years ago.
Right.
What I think the owners are missing is everybody looks at numbers and this and that. Why don't you take the measure of the man, okay? Because when he walks in a room, he commands the room. And Dave, as a player, what more did you want out of your head coach? Absolutely. You want someone that you could believe in and follow. That's Lou Anarumo to a T. Zach Taylor walks into a room. These players believe in him and grasp onto what he's saying, and they want to execute what he's doing. These are men who have proven that they have done it. All right, Darren Simmons as a special teams coach is tremendous.
Yeah.
I love this staff. Remember, I'm biased, but I went to college with Marion Hobby. There's no better D-line coach in the league. Okay? None.
I hear you.
So I could go on and on. It's an excellent staff, great group of people. The culture and all that is there, that overused culture word, but it is there. So next time we talk, we might be talking about them on that run right now, and that should surprise no one.
Let's book it. I'm with you on that. Let's do that. Let's book a little future future visit after they're on that run you're speaking of. And you talk about people in the Bengals organization coming in and commanding a room and what great people they are. You're talking about yourself, man. Charles Davis comes into a room, commands that room. He is as good a human being as walking planet Earth. And I will tell anybody that you're the best.
Dave, you're the greatest. I appreciate you. And good luck this week with the Raiders and right on down the line. And as we said, next time we see each other, we'll be laughing, going, well, they did that. They're on that run.
I feel so much better. Thank you, Charles. You're the best.
You. Take care of yourself, Dave.
You do the same, man.
Here, and every day I am grateful for my experience to have played professional football. As a player, I realized self-motivation, leadership, and appreciating your teammates are key. At First Star Logistics, you can use those same attributes to create the life you want for you and your family. Build your future by working hard like I did. You'll see results both on and off the field. Call First Star Logistics today and be part of our winning team.
Opportunity knocking.